Here we go.
All right, here we go.
All right, what's up, folks? So, hey, Joe here with Kenney Newville, special guest once again, and we're here to talk about Google Stadia. Kenney, I see you very elegantly drinking that water.
Well, that's because I've elegantly moved into the future of cloud streaming with Google Stadia.
Yeah. So we both got into this because Google had this offer where if you're a YouTube premium member, a subscriber, you can get the Google Stadia Launch Edition for free. Is that the same deal you got?
Yeah. Yes.
So the Launch Edition includes the controller. Do you have the controller in front of you?
I don't. It's in my living room.
Okay, that's relevant. Okay, I don't have mine either because it's in my den. So we'll talk about that. That's actually very relevant that we don't have it on us. We're both at our desktops where we normally work. You're in your office, I'm in my office. Right?
That is correct.
Okay, we'll get into that. So you get the controller, you get a Chrome Ultra, what's it called? Chromecast Ultra.
Chromecast Ultra.
And then you can stream to the Chromecast from your phone, or you can actually set up your account on the Chromecast. Streaming is an option for Android, but I think if you're an iOS user, you have to do the setup directly on the Chromecast, right, Kenney?
You have to use the Chromecast device to broadcast to your TV from your phone, and you can't yet natively play on iOS, but they're going to be starting trials, I believe, in the next couple weeks, according to Reddit.
Very cool. Reddit is the source of truth, generally speaking.
And knowledge.
Yeah.
Additionally, like you said, you can plug the Chromecast Ultra into the television through an HDMI outlet, plug that into the wall, plug from a router if you want a wired connection into the power brick for the Chromecast Ultra, and then just sync your controller with the Chromecast Ultra, bypassing your phone almost entirely, which we will discuss, I'm sure, as well.
Yeah, we'll definitely get to all of that. So a little more backdrop on what Stadia is. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen now and bring that up. So what you're seeing on the screen is my account. I'm logged in. Destiny 2 is for some reason the featured game. I don't know if this is a temporary thing or what, but I could hit the play button and start playing Destiny right now on my desktop. I could also play it on my phone, or I can play it on my TV in the den with the Chromecast Ultra. So what Stadia is, if you're unaware, is a 1080p or 4K streaming platform for games. Every month, sort of like PlayStation Plus, they have free games that you can add to your library. I imagine, although Kenney, you may have clarity on this, if you stop subscribing at $10 a month for Stadia Pro, do you get to keep the games that you once added to your library as a Pro member?
I do not believe so. I believe it's very similar to PlayStation Plus. However, you noted Destiny was a featured title up at the top. That's because it is one of a few, but the first batch of many planned free-to-play titles on Stadia. By the way, not through Stadia Pro. Now, what you get with Destiny 2 is the base game unlocked, which I use air quotes there because I'm not really positive what that is anymore because of a system wipe that Destiny 2 has done recently in preparation for their most recent expansion pack, which, again, I am not an expert anymore on Destiny 2, although I did play 24 straight hours of Destiny 2 for Extra Life one year. And so Stadia used to require a Pro subscription. However, it has evolved, and now Stadia is actually separate from Stadia Pro. Stadia Pro is the PlayStation Plus or the Xbox Live Gold Games Pass, if you will, whatever, feature. So you can have a Stadia device, you can have a Stadia account, you can buy games and stream them and you pay Google nothing, or you can subscribe to Stadia Pro. That is my understanding of it.
That meets my understanding as well. So you can buy games from the store, per Kenney's comment there. So you could buy Jedi Fallen Order. It's on sale for $24. For some reason, I have a $10 credit. I don't know why.
But that has to do with the promotion as well.
Oh, okay, cool. See, I'm so glad you're here. So I have, looks like another 2 weeks, and I can maybe week and a half, and I can buy this game at a discount plus the $10 credit. So this doesn't have a Pro stamp on it. So I think, Kenney, that means if I buy it outside of the Pro requirements. So I don't need my $10 a month subscription to play this game after I buy it.
Yeah, it's my understanding that, again, Pro has several features such as being able to play games that would otherwise be paid for free. But I believe it also allows you certain discounts as well. I do not believe that this is one of those. I think
Right.
this is more of a Black Friday discount or a, just a standard discount. That credit, by the way, is specific from what my understanding is. By the way, the YouTube premium package is no longer available to people. However, there still is a way to get your hands on a free Chromecast Ultra and a Stadia controller, which is approximately a $99 value at retail price. Or right now, that package is on sale for $70, $69. And that would be by pre-ordering Cyberpunk 2077, which, by the way, your coupon will not work with because the coupon only works on game purchases, not on pre-orders. If you purchase Cyberpunk 2077, I believe before December 17th, that makes you eligible for a free Stadia bundle. Now, in my opinion, that's a really good deal. And Joe, I haven't told you this yet because I've been waiting to discuss this in this setting. I'm going to pre-order Cyberpunk 2077 on Google Stadia, and I already have it pre-ordered on PC through Steam because I can pay $60 for Cyberpunk 2077 through Google Stadia and get a free Chromecast Ultra and a controller right now. The controller and Chromecast Ultra will come in January, but I think that probably maybe says what it needs to about my thriftiness, but also my enjoyment really of Stadia heretofore.
Yeah, okay, so that makes sense. You're gonna be able to do a side-by-side comparison. Okay, here's the thing about Stadia for me, and I think I can't be alone in this. Like looking through the library, and I'll come back to your Cyberpunk plan in a moment. A lot of these games, where's the killer app, right? And I'm not saying that Cyberpunk is that killer app, but it's as close as a new console can get to a killer app. It's obviously not, I mean, the game is on everything or will be on everything when it launches. But, this platform's been around for a year and it hasn't had a really big like pre-order, a game to pre-order. This seems to be that game. So I think it's cool that you're going to do a side-by-side because if you find that performance is solid with Cyberpunk, hey, on Stadia, maybe it would make it kind of elevates the status of Stadia for you, which would lift it for me as well because I trust your opinion. Is that part of your plan?
Well, there's a lot to unpack there. and I have to be honest when I say that I disagree that there hasn't been a killer app in the same way that there hasn't been a killer app for PC. I mean, they have Red Dead Redemption. They have Doom Eternal. They have Baldur's Gate 3 early access. By the way, the only console that you can play that on right now. They have Ubisoft has thrown their hat into the ring. You see Immortals Phoenix Rising is a big launch. Now, I don't know if that really appeals to me right now, but my point is there's actually a decent amount of third-party support for this. And so the biggest issue I think that they've had is that they had a relatively weak launch because a lot of people need you still need proof of concept.
Yeah.
And that's honestly the only reason I even took the time to fill out the form was just because it was free, because I didn't believe that here in the Midwest we had internet capable of running this. Mm-hmm. And then when I plugged it in and started playing Destiny 2 at the same graphical fidelity as my 2070 Super with my i7, basically my $1,600 gaming desktop with 250 megabits per second, excellent quality, zero drop in performance, no latency that I could tell. Mm-hmm. I was like, holy crap. Like, if Kenney in Jefferson City, Missouri can buy a Chromecast Ultra and a controller for $90 for $100 and start playing Cyberpunk 2077 with no PS5, no Xbox One Series X, no gaming PC. Well, that's a deal. So quite frankly, I have to say, the reason I'm going to be testing Cyberpunk 2077 is because my computer can play Destiny 2 solidly at highest settings, 1080p. I have not entered the 4K universe yet. I don't really feel like I want to. I'm more interested in frame rate. I will say that's the one thing that my PC with Destiny 2 seems to have over Chromecast Ultra and Stadia is I do notice that my PC has a faster frame rate, but I'm not clocking FPS on my television when I'm playing Chromecast Ultra. I'm picking up a controller and I'm diving into Destiny 2. And by the way, less time than it would take me. It takes me less time to get into Destiny 2 by sitting on my couch, picking up Stadia, powering it on, and streaming it than it does to walk into my office, wake my computer up, boot Steam, boot Destiny 2. And so that's an interesting proposition. I cannot wait, by the way. You mentioned killer apps.
Yeah.
Cyberpunk 2077 is going to be a killer app for a number of reasons. Number one, I think it's a very popular app. It's going to be very popular this year. It's Game of the Year contender, and we haven't even seen it yet. We haven't played it yet. Number two, I think it's going to be the new Crisis. I mean, the things that they're doing in this game are showing that it's being released for computers that most people don't have right now. And so if Cyberpunk 2077 can play at better visual fidelity and more solidly on Google's cloud computing device streamed to my living room than it can on my Lenovo Legion with a 2070 Super, which is a very respectable card for right now. Whew.
That's what becomes the killer app. Yeah, that's
because it's also easy to take a Chromecast Ultra with you when you travel. Now, people aren't traveling a whole lot lately, but there are benefits and there are drawbacks to that. Obviously, you can't play without an internet connection, a solid internet connection. For example, if you could take this to a hotel, would it matter? I don't know. And the next time I do travel for business, I do plan on testing it out because I'm honestly, Joe, I'm a little shocked that right now over Wi-Fi in my house, when my wife is streaming TikTok and Hulu and her thing, and Catherine's playing on YouTube for kids and video chatting with her friends while she's playing Minecraft on her iPad, and I'm sitting in the living room playing Destiny 2 with zero lag, all on the same Wi-Fi network, which my Wi-Fi network is no slouch, but it certainly isn't, your coastal quality. I think like the most we can get in our neighborhood is 500 megabits per second. I'm at 250.
Yeah. That's
so
deal.
Yeah.
If you can do all that at once, that is a big deal. And the travel part, I think actually, once we get back out again, 5G is more pervasive now than it was 8 months ago. Verizon just recently unleashed 5G, like I'm not sure how much more it expanded. It was like, 20 times more coverage than they had before when they were piloting 5G. Even now, I get 5G coverage in places where I could barely get 4G coverage.
Well, and Joe, you actually bring up a good point that I was totally ignoring because as an iOS user, it's not available to me yet. And that is native streaming through an app on your phone with the Stadia controller. So you're playing with a Stadia controller outside of your element, sure, not on your television or your Chromecast. But I mean, if they could figure out a way to get this to work halfway decent through 5G, wow, what a game changer.
You can use a Razer Kishi controller as well, which I don't have on me at the moment, but here's Stadia on my Galaxy Fold, right? So I think it's about a 7-inch display, and I'd probably play it, looks like maybe this way. I'm not sure, we'll figure it out, but I could play natively on this.
I was playing that way.
It's crazy. And I could stream it to any other Chromecast device that I have, right? So one of the advantages of you pre-ordering 2077 is that you're going to now have two Chromecast devices, right? So you can have one in your office, the living room, the den, wherever you have TVs. It wouldn't be difficult. It wouldn't be an expensive proposition for you, really.
I mean, the ultimate bang right now would be if they could figure out a cross-save scenario. Destiny has it because everything is stored on the server. Your characters are stored on the server. So for example, when I was playing Destiny 2 in the living room and I decided, I'm gonna go check out the PC offering and just see what it's like. And then I jumped in the PC and started right back up where I left off.
Awesome.
You know, CD Projekt Red went ahead and enabled cross-save, between The Witcher 3 on PC and the Switch.
Yeah.
So, it makes sense that they might, do the same with Stadia because Stadia is simply more mobile.
So let's get esoteric a little bit, or at least try to make some predictions. Do you think that this is, I think you and I had a conversation about cloud streaming services 5 or 6 years ago on the podcast that we used to do. And man, it just seems so far out of reach. And Sony acquired one of the leading companies that was doing it. They massaged it into PlayStation Now, which doesn't seem to have any traction whatsoever as far as I can tell.
I've never tried it, by the way.
I have tried it. I think it was a free month or something a while back.
Yep, and I didn't spring for it like I sprung for this. That's what I'm saying.
This is the AOL model, right? They're like, here's the disc, right? They're giving the controller, giving the Chromecast. It's probably I don't know what the cost is for them. It can't be all that much, but they're giving us an opportunity to jump in. I think it's very wise. I did subscribe to Pro. I felt like I can't really test it unless I subscribe to Pro. You end up buying a game or pre-ordering a game. So now we both got this thing for free, and within a couple of weeks, we've spent money. So well done, Google. But I'm curious if you think this is the way we're headed, because when I hear about cross-save, right? Like, oh, my character's like Diablo, right? Characters stored in the cloud. Like that was the big, or are not stored in the cloud. Like that was the big problem for me with the Switch, is that I put in hundreds of hours on PC. Several years later, the game comes out on Switch, and I got to start over again. It's like, come on, guys. Like, let me put my characters over. And I think there's limitations. The game is different on Switch, right? Like with dodging, rolling, and all that kind of stuff. So maybe that's why they couldn't do it. But with Destiny, there's a great example of a game where the characters that you create are everywhere you play the game. So to me, it's like, well, do I really need a box? Do I need an Xbox, a PC for that reason? Or do I need a PlayStation 5? Other than the exclusives, I don't know what I'm there for.
Sure. So I don't know if this is necessarily the future, although I will say that it is a very, very enticing offer. Mm-hmm. And that's coming from someone, I don't even know who I am anymore, Joe. I mean, the fact of the matter is the majority of what I'm doing right now for virtual enjoyment, mm-hmm. I am taking advantage of a subscription model in every aspect of my life. For example, I can't stand watching YouTube advertisements. I'm a digital marketer by trade. And I pay $10 a month for YouTube Premium. Used to be YouTube Red. I keep calling it YouTube Red.
I know.
And then they folded Google Music, Google Play Music into YouTube Music. So now it's YouTube Music. So I'm paying $10 a month for YouTube with no commercials and for unlimited streaming through YouTube's music app. Right. By the way, I also pay $14 a month for iOS, for Apple Music, for the family plan, because I prefer Apple Music. But the fact of the matter is I also prefer watching YouTube with no commercials. And now because I prefer watching YouTube with no commercials, Google has added another $10 a month charge to me with Google Stadia Pro, which they gave to me for free because I'm a YouTube Premium subscriber. Right. And so I'm like, holy crap, what have I become? And by the way, the majority of what I'm playing right now, I'm playing through the Halo Master Chief Collection on my gaming PC through Xbox Game Pass for PC. And I'm about to subscribe to Ultimate because on the 15th of December, you get EA Play for free.
That is huge.
So the future is undeniably the subscription model. Mm-hmm. So why is my hesitation that Google Stadia is not necessarily the future? And here's why. Interestingly enough, in the Midwest, we live in this very protected bubble where things come down the road a lot slower than other people's existence. Mm-hmm. We do not have data caps. I don't know if you do.
Yeah, there's a plan without it, but yeah, there's like throttling and stuff.
I'm not sure if we have throttling, but if we do, nobody is aware of it. Nobody's talking about it. I was talking with a friend who lives six houses down, and he asked what type of internet I had. I told him it's MediaCom. It's 250 megabits per second. We pay $75 a month for that. And there's no cap that I've noticed. There's no throttling that I've noticed. I mean, I now work almost exclusively from home, and I have, by the way, almost exclusively since March. Back in March, we had an 18-year-old in the house that was doing e-learning in high school when we had an exchange student living with us. We had my wife, who's a digital marketer and was streaming Hulu while digital marketing. We had my daughter who's on YouTube. We had me who's playing a game, streaming an app, and playing and working. I mean, my point is, like, our house was just like, we had to be busting our data. You know, if we had a data cap, we had to be hitting it like halfway through the month. We never did. Nothing ever slowed down. So,
go ahead.
My point is, I know that there are areas of the world where data caps are a thing. I know that there are areas of the country where data caps are a thing. And sure, you can play for unlimited, but there's still throttling. Hell, you mentioned 5G earlier. I mean, there are data caps in our mobile devices right now. Even if you are grandfathered into, you know, unlimited passes, we know there's throttling. That throttling could prohibit your enjoyment of Stadia. My point is, if the way of the future is paying per meg or gig or whatever, then the answer is, I don't know, but I don't think that Stadia will be the future, because it doesn't cost me very much to boot up Assassin's Creed Valhalla on my Legion.
Right. There's a couple of things I want to bring up. So one is that technical fidelity, right? Like graphical fidelity, rather. So you mentioned you have a 2070 Super. I have the same card. We have the same machine. We're besties. So we have the same machine. They're both very powerful. And I like that so RTX is a thing. A bunch of games that RTX support. I didn't care. Started playing Valhalla, and with all the water, I'm like really noticing the RTX. I'm like, this is super cool. It supports HDR. My monitor supports HDR. When it works, it's very cool. Sometimes it doesn't work. It's a bit glitchy. But when you offshore all of the graphical computing into these clusters from Google or whomever, it's kind of up to them. And so there's like, first of all, do they want to offer it? RTX, 4K, 60, whatever the fidelity is. They want to offer that to you. Then do you have the TV to support it? And do you have the bandwidth to support it? So there's a couple chains there that you don't have a lot of control over. Whereas with the PC, it's like you have control. And as long as developers continue to give you the options, they don't optimize for non-PC and don't give you the options to tweak. Is that going to be? Are we entering into a world where we're actually going to lose out on the ability to tweak and customize and personalize with our desktops if this trend continues, if it even is a trend yet?
Well, there doesn't seem to be any video settings on Destiny 2 for Stadia other than like gamma and changing your screen size. I do know that Stadia in their settings, you can say, is this an HDR device? Is it up to 4K? No, it says 1080p on my TV, and I don't have HDR, and I don't have a couple other things as well, and that's fine. I don't actually have, like I said, an HDR device in my house, and I don't have anything that runs generally over 1080p anyways. So for me, I can't really try that out. Although I have to say, with a 2070 Super, I'm not even sure I'd be able to hit what I call playable in 4K HDR anyways with Cyberpunk. So what I'm saying about Cyberpunk is this might be the first title that I could pop in, because even Valhalla, you mentioned it. You're playing at what? You're playing at 1440 HDR?
HDR. You get about 75 frames per second.
Yeah. See, and so, but you're basically maxing that game out, other than 4K.
Yeah.
I mean, 1440 is a very respectable resolution.
Looks great, man.
So, I know there's a lot of 4K purists out there. Pound sand. HDR is definitely something I feel I'm lacking. Okay. But I don't feel like I'm really lacking by playing a game in 1080p on my 27-inch monitor, really. My 50-inch television, yeah, when I get up on it, I'd really rather have a 4K. But I'm, again, more interested in the HDR than I am in the 4K-ness.
Yeah.
Okay. So when that's all said and done, there aren't very many games right now that I can't run maxed out on the 1080p display with no HDR. So 2070, Cyberpunk 2070 is 2077. Sorry, I have 2070 Super.
2077. Yeah, 77.
Cyberpunk is going to be really the first, I think, in my opinion, true test to what does a game look like using Google's computing power, CD Projekt's willingness to play with them, and then versus my now high middle end gaming PC. You mentioned it's basically up to Google, and that's true because the quality of your experience is only capped by your weakest element, and that could be a number of things. But one thing I think you'd be surprised to learn, and I don't really know too much about this, I'd have to do more research, but feel free to look into this. And that is that actually the developers have a fair amount of say in how the game will run as well. For example, there are some games that apparently do not run very well on Stadia, and some people were complaining about the Assassin's Creed titles and Watch Dogs Legion not running very well on Stadia. Whereas Destiny 2, man, I mean, it runs like butter. It's fine. It's great. So I haven't obviously played any of the Assassin's Creed games on Stadia. I'm not that interested in purchasing any games on Stadia right now until I get something to again really entice me, such as a free Chromecast Ultra and a second controller. Because actually, the game I've been talking about on Stadia is Destiny 2. But the game that I've been playing the most on Stadia is Human Fall Flat with my 7-year-old daughter.
That's awesome.
And I will tell you right now that I love the idea of me being able, like, she walks up, turns the TV on, presses the home button on Stadia. It immediately pops up. The last game is there. She presses it. She's in, and she's playing it. And she's having a great time. And that's a game where, like, you know that if you've never played it, it's a game about precision. It's not a game about reflexes because the game does not allow you to really do anything very quickly, but you have to do everything very intentionally. And we have had no issues playing that game. So it's not only Destiny 2 that's proof of concept that seems to be working, but also Human Fall Flat. And so that second controller that comes in January will be really fun to pick up and play with her. And see how split screen works, you know, and two-player works.
I thought it was interesting when I connected my Stadia. So when I first fired it up, I was streaming from my phone to my Chromecast. Then I learned how to map my account to my Chromecast. So now I don't need my phone. So what I thought was interesting, though, is when I did that, I had to pair the controller over Wi-Fi. Which I thought was interesting. So immediately I'm like, well, if it's over Wi-Fi, then I'm not limited by the Chromecast. So the Chromecast, where the connection point to the controller, it might be limited, but it's Wi-Fi, so I could probably connect more than one controller. So do you know how many controllers it supports?
I don't. I know it supports at least 2 because I know there are, you know, 2-player games. And I'm wondering, Joe, I have to be honest, I don't know how this thing works. It's magic to my Midwestern non-technical
That's
brain.
what we're losing, man. We're knowing.
But I think I know that the controller has. I don't know how the controller works, Joe. I don't know if it just uses Wi-Fi to pair with the Chromecast Ultra that's already on your network. For example, I know that if I want to stream music using my iPhone, which I just noticed, I don't know where that is. That's weird. I'm a millennial, I can't find my phone. If I want to stream, I can stream Apple Music from my iPhone to my Google Home speaker, which is hiding behind my plant back there. And I have to be on the same Wi-Fi network to do that, or I have to use Bluetooth. So there's 2 ways to do it. And I know with Chromecast, they said that you need to be on the same Wi-Fi network. So I'm wondering if it's actually the controller connects through Wi-Fi, or if it's just it just uses Wi-Fi to find the device, and then after that it's using a Bluetooth connection. Or if it's not, if it is actually streaming through the controller. You see where that doesn't make sense to me? I don't understand why the controller would have to access the Stadia network through the Wi-Fi and Chromecast Ultra access the Stadia.
That's why we subscribe, right? That's why there's a subscription model. You pay.
Here's what I do know, though, Joe. It works.
It works. It does. It works.
And so for the average run-of-the-mill I play games for entertainment, and I don't record stupid conversations with my friends about it and
I
put
do.
it on our YouTube pages.
It's
I
fun.
think that, I'm telling you right now, I would pitch this to somebody over a PlayStation 5. I
I
would
was just
pitch
going to
this to
bring that up.
someone over a Vita, a
Yeah.
Switch. I mean, I have to say, I would, somebody who's like mid 30s, older, took a break for 10 years from games because they got married, they started their job, their
Right.
career, they had kids, and now their kids can, do things on their own, and their job is settling down, and their wife is ignoring them and watching,
And they give you all
Bachelor or
this
something.
information before they ask for recommendation.
I think that the Google Stadia is a solid choice.
It's
It's
not
a
bad.
very small barrier to entry.
So prior to getting the Stadia, my sister had asked me. She has a well, how old is her daughter? Her oldest is 8, something like that, and she's in video games. She's playing mostly on an iPad. So she asked, "Hey, should I get a PS5 or an Xbox One X?" I was like, "You should go get a PS4 or a Switch, right?" But anyway,
Yeah.
now I'm thinking, yeah, a Stadia might be a good way to go. Although there aren't a
How
lot of
old?
like, games for 8-year-olds, from what I could see.
Yeah.
The concept makes sense.
Yeah, I'm telling you, I was very specific with my demographic. I think that the Switch makes the
You
most
were.
sense for your niece.
I mean, dude, I'm telling you, man, yeah, you might be entering the Switch Lite space here pretty soon, right?
Maybe. We bought one for Catherine for Christmas, but honestly, Joe, I can't get her to play my Switch.
Okay,
So more than likely, I will be returning it.
shoot. Well, you should turn it on and try it out before you return it, if they let you do that. This thing is awesome. I'm telling you, man, this thing, when you're laying in bed, this is like half the weight of a regular Switch or something. It's so light. You don't get cramps. It's great. It's all in one.
So for me, Stadia was really an experiment to see if cloud gaming streamed to my display, whatever display that is, if that would work. Honestly, the one thing that Stadia has, other than what I've discussed here about Cyberpunk and seeing what the difference will be between my gaming PC and that. The other thing that it allowed me to understand is if I wanted to, I could play Control on the Switch.
That's true.
Because there are games now, such as Control in America, and there was another one in Japan, Assassin's Creed Origins, or was it Odyssey? One of the Assassin's Creed games is streamable in Japan. You buy the game on Switch, just like Control, and then it does a little network check, and if you're good, it runs and it streams to your Switch. Now you can't play it on a flight unless you're paying for Wi-Fi, and I imagine in-flight Wi-Fi is crap.
Yeah.
So, but now I know if I want to, I could play Control on my Switch. So, what other games could come to Switch in that capacity? For example, I know there's been a lot of Assassin's Creeds that have come to Switch recently. The Rebel Collection and Assassin's Creed 3 came. Why not put a Uplay streaming service, and put it on all the consoles, charge a monthly fee, put it on Switch too. EA Play, Xbox Live Game Pass, or Xbox Game Pass Ultimate on Xbox. That we've been talking about in the game space, collaboration between Microsoft and Switch for a while now, Nintendo on Switch for a while now. People have even gone so far as to think that the Master Chief Collection was coming to Switch, which would be amazing. I think people are reading into that. I think that's just simply Minecraft is everywhere. Microsoft owns Minecraft, therefore Microsoft is now on everything. But think about how awesome it would be to be able to use your Game Pass Ultimate through your Switch with a solid internet connection. And so you're playing whatever's on that streaming device at the best possible fidelity that the Switch screen will allow you to see, because the computing is being offloaded somewhere else.
Well, even on a limited in your house capacity, I do think that the next Switch is going to use a Chromecast-like device instead of a docking station. I think the fact that they went the extra mile and they made an all-in-one unit that doesn't dock, doesn't have detachable controllers, I think that means it's a sign that Nintendo is going to have the next Switch will be an all-in-one unit, and then they'll have a wireless device that they each plug into your TV, and then you cast from your Switch to your TV. I do think that's coming next. That's outside the bounds of our Stadia conversation, but I just want to get it out there again to the world that I'm the only one predicting this. Did a whole video on it. It's going to happen.
Well, I have my reservations about that prediction. I hope you're wrong. But you're right. It's outside of the bounds of Stadia, but I don't think it's too far afield. This conversation is about Stadia, but it's also about the broader idea of what we can do to offset cost, increase profitability, and increase access to high-end quality gaming in the future. And Stadia, I have to say, Google, if there's anyone out there that can put this physical hardware in people's hands, Google can afford to do that.
Yeah, Amazon missed the boat.
And so I have to say, if you have the opportunity to get yourself a Stadia device, buy it or get it for free, whatever, don't pass that up. And really put it through its paces. And I think you'll see what we're seeing, which is unbelievable to me. If you'd have asked me 3 months ago, what are Joe and Kenney going to talk about after they try Google Stadia, I would have told you I'm going to mock it mercilessly. But I'm not going to cancel my Stadia Pro subscription just yet. We'll see.
We'll wrap it up there. Kenney, thanks for taking the time. We appreciate it. And
my pleasure.
We'll have some more conversations soon. Good luck getting a PS5 that you're not trying to get, but I am.
If I get one, Joe, you'll be the first person to know about it.
Thanks a lot, man. Take it easy.